Sharp Game here, coming at you with another episode from ChooseYourRelationships.com off of Love Can't Wait, which can be found on Amazon.com. Do all men cheat? You might hear a lot of women try to justify why men do what they do, and you might hear a lot of people within the mainstream media ask this question all the time: do all men cheat? And the answer is absolutely not. There's no absolutes when it comes to everything. But I tell you what, women today make cheating, just having sex in general, it's very difficult for men to be faithful to one woman, because sex is everywhere. Everywhere you go, there's sex being displayed on advertising, marketing. Even if you're on the highway driving, there's some naked woman damn near on a banner, displayed, advertising some type of product. If you turn on the television, if you look at the movies, if you out in public, women are damn near naked, depending on where you live at and depending on what season it is. So it's very hard on a lot of men today in this society. Now, I'm an older guy. I'm in my 40s, and I have much more discipline than I did when I was in my 20s. So I can imagine what it would be like for a guy that's 25 years of age. Most of those guys haven't fully developed. And most of those guys are not going to be able to avoid the temptations within American society. And see, a lot of women are betting on that the guys are going to lower their defenses and then they can suck them in. And this is why you have a lot of women on on places like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter are basically campaigning, trying to lower the guy in for sex so they can try to trap the guy. And the reason why this happens is because it takes a lot of discipline to say no, to not fall for a lot of the traps. And see, what happens with a lot of women, especially, a lot of women choose the wrong guys. A lot of women want the guys that getting a lot of attention on social media. If they're campaigning, they got their shirts off, showing the pictures, and women are leaving sometimes hundreds and hundreds of comments. They're saying things like, "Hey, call me when you get back in town. We got to get up. We got to get together." And these are the guys that women want. And these guys are not going to be faithful to you. These guys are attention whoring. And see, you have to, as a woman, you have to understand, you have to go after the guy that want you. But see, most women, they play the game wrong. Most women go after the guy that don't want them. The guy that doesn't want them, he might hit it, but he ain't gonna stay around that long. And a lot of women do something that's kind of common today, and it's happened to me a few times. They'll, after you hit it or have sex with a woman 3 to 4 times on average, she'll swear that y'all in a relationship. She'll say, well, I just assumed that we were together because we spending all this time together, right? But if you talk to the guy, he'll say, well, I don't remember us having a conversation about us being in a relationship together, and see, a lot of women think like this. If they have a good experience with a guy, they don't want nobody else to have that experience that they had. So in her mind, even though she knows that they're not officially having a relationship, in her mind, she thinks like this. Well, I don't want nobody to get what I already have. I don't want nobody to get the experience that I have. So when she finds out that the guy have a Rolodex of women, then she'll be like, oh, he cheated on me. He's a cheater. He's no good. He's a no good son of a gun or whatever. And these are the majority of women that will say all guys cheat. But the reality is they never had a relationship with the guy in the first place. She just assumed that they had a relationship. See, because at the end of the day, either you're married or you're single. Now, unless you have an oral agreement that says y'all exclusive, that y'all gonna be together, imano, in a monogamous relationship, just you and him. If y'all haven't had that conversation, or if y'all not married, you're single. But see, a lot of women have a hard time with this for whatever reason. And I think it has to do with their competitive nature between women, because women are very competitive amongst each other. Sure, they'll smile with each other and hang out with each other, but in the back of their mind, they're competing with other women for guys. And if you're a guy, you've probably seen this happen without even thinking about it. Because one woman will tell a story about her experience, and the other woman will tell another story about her experience, which will be a similar experience or a better experience. So they're basically competing against each other without you even realizing it sometimes. And they do this all the time. They do it all the time. So a lot of women, and the funny thing is, if you're a guy and you tell a lot of women that they're competing amongst their friends, they'll disagree with it. They'll be like, what are you talking about? We're just having a conversation. But they are competing. A lot of women are kind of like in la la land. They're, and this has a lot to do with them making claims of a guy cheating on them. Because I've learned that in most cases, they never were in a relationship with the guy in the first place. The guy that they want don't want them. The guy that they chose ain't gonna ever be faithful to her. That's the thing. So, and then you have a lot of women are in most cases is willing to do almost anything to get a guy. You don't even, if you're in the 20s today, I don't even recommend you get married, because you can get everything you want out of a woman today. 1 to 2 women, I would say 2 to 3 women, you can get everything out of 2 to 3 women without being married, and they're down with it. Because women are having sex. They're giving up the sex like hotcakes today. So a guy that's 25 years old, that's on the come up, would be like, if I was to get married, I'd have to give up what I have already established already. I would have to start all over again. So it doesn't really make sense to get married for a lot of guys. The way I'm looking at it today, and I'm just like a lot of the younger guys. I'm just more older. I'm more wiser now. I have more discipline. But it's very difficult for a guy that's traveled and been around a lot of women to settle down with just one woman. That's almost impossible. That's like, what happens is you've conditioned yourself to be around so many women, and you're traveling and you're moving a shaker, and you're making good, decent money. And now you're telling me that I have to settle down with one woman for the rest of my life? That's like a culture shock for a lot of guys. Most guys will try to do the right thing, for the family and everything, but it probably won't work out that way. They probably, if that marriage is going to stay together, they're probably going to have to make some adjustments down the line, a couple of years down the line. And, I'm not the marriage police, so I always say whatever works for you, do what you got to do. But I know some guys that are faithful. I know some guys that's been with one woman for 10, 20, 30 years. And that's because they conditioned themselves to be that way. They never was out there with a lot of women in the first place. There's some guys, they're just relationship type guys. Every woman they get with, they be in a relationship with, or at least try to be in a relationship with. Most of the time it work out, sometimes it don't. So they're one-on-one type guys, imano imano, which that's cool. But these are the guys that I know that usually stick with one woman. Now, if you take a guy that's been with a lot of women, or been around a lot of women, now maybe he wasn't physically with a lot of women, but he's been around a lot of women. He's traveled. He's well-rounded. That guy is probably not going to be faithful to you. He's probably going to have a very difficult time, And see, another thing you have to realize is most of the guys that I know, they are not on social media. They're not on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Most of the guys, some of the best guys, are not on social media at all. The guys that flash on social media, take the shirt off, which look a little moist to me. Take the shirt off and showing people what they got. Those guys are usually frauds. They're campaigning for certain types of women. They're not really looking for anything serious. And this is what a lot of women don't understand. And these are the guys that most women fall for. And they think, a lot of women on social media think that these guys are the exception to the rule. They think that these guys make up the majority. And that's a mistake that a lot of women make. The majority of guys, they work a job, take care of their family, and they do what they got to do to live the best life that they can. And the majority of those guys are not on the internet and don't want anything to do with technology. And a lot of women pass over those guys or walk over those guys to get to the guys that's on social media flashing, or the guy that's just really talking a bunch of crap, but he don't really got nothing to back up. And this is a mistake that a lot of women make. They don't choose wisely, and then they turn around and justify why the guy cheated. But in essence, in most cases, he never really cheated because they never were together in the first place. You know? And this is why I always ask, when women make blatant statements like all guys cheat, I have to ask their story, the details of what might have happened, because it's at least two stories, two sides of every story, you know. So if I don't hear the other guy's story or the other person's story, I can't really take them serious, you know, because a lot of women get all emotional, and you know they want the guy with the swag, the charm, charisma, you know. But a lot of those guys, they're not consistent. They're not really consistent. And a lot of women don't really, when they run into the guys with the charm and charisma, they kind of lose all train of thought. You know, they kind of, everything they talked about, they'll throw all that out the window, and then they'll do what they do, and then they have kind of like buyer's remorse, and that's where they start ranting and being all angry about everything, and start pointing the finger and trying to blame. But see, we live in a society today where women don't really have to take responsibility for anything, because there's not too much consequences that happens with women. See, with guys, if we make too many mistakes, we might end up in jail, or we end up paying out hundreds and hundreds of dollars for our mistakes. But see, women don't really have to deal with that. So that's the difference. So women don't really have to be accountable or take responsibility for anything. They usually, the system usually backs them, or they can, you know, call for some help or something like that, or they get to manipulate the family to do certain things. But most guys kind of have to have one foot in and one foot out the system. And see, in American society, the man is basically supposed to keep paying, and the woman is supposed to get exploited. So the man is the pimp and the woman is the hoe. That's how the whole economic system is set up in the United States of America, which has a lot to do with how they pander and cater to women's needs. And see, these big Fortune 500 companies have figured out that women are going to spend the most money in society. So when if some organization or some people try to come down hard on women, the system will back the women up. The system will actually stop those people from doing anything to the women. If you really pay attention in American society, they never really go in on women. They never really go in on women, but they'll go in on the men, because see, in this economic society, men don't really spend a lot of money as much. It's not even close to the amount of money that women spend especially during the holidays. Men go out and buy stuff from women during the holidays like crazy. Men buy cars for women. Men buy houses for women to live in. Men buy houses for the kids and for women. And men buy stuff on Valentine's Day. Men take women on vacations. All that. I can go on and on. But men don't do things to compete with other men necessarily. There's some that do, but it's very small percentage of men. If they flashing, they flashing for women. They're not flashing for other guys. You know, they're not flashing for when they got their nice looking sneakers on, or nice suits, nice jeans, nice polo shirts, jewelry. That stuff is for women, you know. So guys buy stuff indirectly for women and justify why they had to do it for themselves, and women buy stuff because they like stuff that looks nice and pretty, and they like the buildings, they like high rises, they like the flash, you know. So a lot of women, in essence, have been conditioned to be shallow. This is why they like the guys on social media, the guys that's showing all the, you know, the flash, the muscles, his shirt off, you know, he's getting all the attention. And women want guys that are in demand. They want guys that other women want. And these, you know, women women usually don't want a guy that's not in demand. If she knows other women want the guy, she'll start to want him too, by default. And this is why a lot of guys, you know, they have a hard time being with one woman, because it's so easy out here today, you know. So even the guys that are with one woman, it's difficult for them. So just imagine the guy that's had a pattern of being with more than one woman, and then he gets married and has good intentions and doesn't want to cheat, but it seems like when you get married, you have women that are throwing it at the married men like hotcakes. So it's very difficult for a lot of guys in American society, especially if you live in a big city. Now, if you live in a small town, well, that's a little bit different. But the same thing goes down in a small town, but it's going to be dependent upon who you are and your surroundings and your environment. And how many women do you come in contact with in that town? That's what it's going to be dependent on. But if you're in a big city, New York City, LA, Atlanta, Chicago, Miami, my goodness, it's easy. I mean, if you're single, it's going to be easy. And if you're married, it's going to be 10 times as much as easy. Because if women know that you're married, if they know that you have somebody at home, they're going to throw it at you like you could never imagine. And it's going to happen when you least expect, based on my experience. So do all men cheat? Absolutely not. But women make it easy for men to do it today. And I talk about this in my books. So if you like it, like what you heard, go buy my books, subscribe to my channel, join my Players Club. Until next time, I'm out. Peace.